from the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus. This is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon and welcome to 1680 The Crow. My name is Evan Tate and this is your news update to 3 o'clock. Environment Canada has issued a snowfall warning in multiple British Columbia areas as a snowstorm is expected to hit the province Tuesday. Warnings are in place in many areas of Vancouver Island, as well as Metro Vancouver, Fraser Valley, Sunshine Coast, and the Merit to Hope stretch of the Coquihalla. 10 to 25 centimeters of snow is expected to hit these areas Tuesday evening and going into Wednesday. With the winter weather greeting us with full force, it's important to be prepared. Reporter Maham Hashmi has more.
Snowstorm warnings were just issued today after winter is hitting us fashionably late. TransLink held a press conference outside of Joyce Collingwood SkyTrain station regarding the weather and how it impacts transit users. Dan Mountain from TransLink shared how to stay updated regarding potential detours with buses in the snow.
There's no planned detours at this moment. There's no planned changes to stops.
Mountain encourages transit users to stay updated through the TransLink platforms in case of changes to their routes. Maham Hashmi, 1680 The Crow.
We're now joined live with Maham. Maham, what action can we see from TransLink being done regarding the snowstorm?
Hi, Evan. Transit has announced that they will issue more workers at each station. They have also special tires for all their buses to ensure greater traction on the roads. They have switched to using only their 40-foot-long buses to ensure maximum safety.
And what is the best way to stay up to date with any delays or route changes?
The best way to remain up to date is through the TransLink app. TransLink will also post updates on their Twitter account as well as their websites. Transit users are encouraged to call the TransLink hotline to report any issues with their commutes.
Thank you, Maham. The Bank of Canada has lost a historic $522 million in the third quarter of this year, making it the first loss in their history. In the bank's most recent financial reports, its stated revenue from interest on its assets failed to keep pace with the interest charges on deposits at the bank. The Bank of Canada's aggressive interest rates spiked this year have raised the cost of interest charges it pays on settlement balances deposited in the accounts of big banks. Speaking in front of the House of Commons Finance Committee last week, Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem addressed the expected losses. He stated these losses do not affect the central bank's ability to conduct monetary policy. School trustees in Vancouver have restored a controversial program that assigns police to public schools. The intention is to have officers on campuses by next semester. In a 5-4 vote Monday night, trustees approved the School Liaison Officer program. British Columbia's Human Rights Commissioner Kazari Govender has urged similar programs to be scrapped. The program was cut last year after a review that was prompted by concerns uniformed officers make some students anxious or upset, including many identifying as Black, Indigenous, or people of color. With the holiday season coming up, the Richmond Food Bank Society is optimistic that this December will provide relief for the organization and clients. With more on the story, Parmveer Kang.
The food bank has experienced a lot of growth this year with a 35 to 40% increase in clients since January. The food bank has seen a rise in both food and monetary donations as well as volunteer help in past holiday seasons. Executive Director Hajira Hussain spoke on how much the month of December truly helps the food bank.
Whatever we get during this 1 month, it helps us to, our shelves are stocked, I would say, up until April. We don't have to worry about food or anything up until April.
Hussain is asking for people to donate as much as they can, as it's possible the current recession will cause a decrease in donations. Parmveer Kang, 1680, The Crow.
Amanda Todd's harasser returned to the Netherlands. The man convicted of harassing and extorting British Columbia teenager Amanda Todd has been returned to the Netherlands, where the prosecution office says a judge will decide if he serves any of his 13-year Canadian sentence. A new music festival has kicked off in Vancouver with the aim to promote culture and songs from a non-English background. Reporter Jacob New has more.
The Jade Music Festival is underway and will feature concerts, workshops, and showcases of dozens of Canadian and international musicians that sing in Chinese languages. It was established by the Society of We Are Canadians Too. Managing Director of the Society, Charlie Wu, says a focus on underrepresented languages and cultures is the goal going forward.
We need to promote finding a shared culture and recognizing the differences that we have amongst ourselves and embrace them is very important, key to the organization, and we feel arts and culture could play in that part.
Organizers say they hope to showcase musicians from a different language community each year. The festival runs until December 3rd. Jacob New, 1680, The Crow.
BC Doctors President Ramneek Dosanjh believes the forecast is positive to solve the shortage of family doctors. Reporter David Nava with the story.
Yesterday, SFU announced that the opening of their new medical school is delayed to 2026, meaning the new doctors will graduate in 2030. But BC Doctors President Dr. Ramneek Dosanjh believed that even though this is unfortunate, there are many other strategies to fix the family doctor shortage in BC, such as the initiative to bring more international doctors to the province.
I think we have to recognize that these changes are a great initiative and a component of trying to revive the healthcare system, because we're also facing a lot of attrition and healthcare human resource shortage.
She also comments that the new model payment for physicians, co-developed by the province, BC Doctors, and BC Family Doctors, is coming into place next February. In addition to that, Dr. Dosanjh confirmed that physicians are already receiving the $27,000 relief payment that the province announced on August 24. David Nava, 1680 The Crow.
In Hawaii, the world's largest active volcano poses no threat to the humanity of Hawaiians and has attracted tourists due to its unique lava flow. Alex Stone of ABC News has more.
The lava is far from any homes, and as the lava flows, it will soon hit flat land. There is little to no threat to communities right now. Shelters that were opened are closing, and Jessica Farrakane with the National Park Service says visitors to Volcanoes National Park are welcome to come see the beauty of Mauna Loa 24/7.
The park is open, and the viewing has been spectacular.
Crowds are already so big, she's now instructing people to arrive after 9 at night. Alex Stone, ABC News.
In the World Cup, Canadian soccer has filed an official complaint with FIFA following a game where Canadian goalkeeper Milan Borjan endured taunts due to his Serbian ties. Borjan was born in ethnic Serb region of Croatia that was involved in the conflict that divided former Yugoslavia in the late 1990s. The goalkeeper and his family fled their hometown in 1995 when it was taken by Croatian forces amid stories that ethnic Serbs escaped on tractors. On Sunday, during Canada's 4-1 loss, a banner displayed by Croatian fans incorporated a flag of tractor manufacturer John Deere and altered the marketing slogan to target Borjan. The abuse only escalated in the second half when the Canadian keeper was in front of the Croatian fans. Looking at the results from Qatar, Group A in the World Cup wrapped up their group stage today with 2 games beginning at 7 a.m. Senegal took the win over Ecuador 2-1, with Koulibaly scoring the go-ahead goal to punch Senegal's ticket into the knockout stage. The other Group A game this morning saw the Netherlands move on to the round of 16, defeating host country Qatar 2-0. Qatar finishes the tournament with an 0-3 record and becomes the first host country of the World Cup ever to go without a win. Group B finished their games today with England taking on fellow Great Britainers in Wales. England defeated Wales 3-0 to secure their spot in elimination. Manchester's Marcus Rashford put home 2 goals in the win, including the first free kick goal of the tournament for the Three Lions. The USA competed at the same time in a winner-go-home situation against Iran. USA's Christian Pulisic scored in the first half to give the States a 1-goal lead, which is good enough to seal their spot in the knockout round. The Americans will meet the Netherlands in the round of 16, with Senegal set to compete against England. With the Canadian national team 2 days after scoring Canada's first ever goal at the Men's World Cup, Alphonso Davies met with the media in Qatar. While Canadians may be leaving the tournament after the first round, Davies says his country is making its mark.
And yeah, I mean, we gained a lot of new, supporters around the world. A lot of people thought that, Canada wasn't really a footballing country. And, hopefully after this tournament, we've changed a lot of minds.
Canada still has 1 group stage game remaining before returning home. They'll match up against Morocco at 7 a.m. Thursday. Checking in with the Canucks, they're back in town after a perfect 3-0 road trip against Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals. Canucks JT Miller is looking to extend his point streak after recording a goal or an assist in 8 straight games. American Thatcher Demko is expected to get the start for the Canucks tonight, with Darcy Kemper between the pipes for the Caps. Now into the weather. As mentioned earlier, Metro Vancouver can expect to see a great bit of snowfall overnight. The current temperature is sitting at a chilly -1, with light snow already falling. Thank you for listening to 1680 The Crow. I'm your host, Evan Tate, and that's your news update for 3 p.m.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
It's extremely important for people to stay healthy and to stay active as much as possible.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May
says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Hello, I'm Dennis Shinolu, and this is For the Record. Today, we're talking to Chris Bayless, Executive Director of the Vancouver branch of the Lower Mainland Christmas Bureau. We're talking about the 43rd annual motorcycle toy drive being canceled, as well as other different ways that people can donate toys to needy children this year. Enjoy. Would you mind introducing yourself?
I'm Chris Bayless, the Executive Director of the Lower Mainland Christmas Bureau.
Okay, that's great. Well then, just to start, I was sort of looking through your website before this interview, and I saw that the 43rd annual toy run won't be happening this year for 2022. Do you have a story behind that?
It would have happened in October, but we had to cancel it during COVID, and it's a 2-year lead time for that project. With the 5 cities involved, 4 cities, a couple of locations, it's got a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that has to happen. So we replaced it with a toy drop during COVID, and we kept that. So rather than having a toy drive where our motorcycle friends can ride on their motorcycles and then go to an event, they just go to the event kind of on their own and drop off toys.
So I guess
it hasn't gone away fully. It's just changed the format.
Yeah. So it used to be sort of specific people would drive through different towns and neighborhoods and get the collections.
Well, it's actually a full parade. So and I've regionally involved with this project. You would start at Coquitlam Center, and you could gather there, and then you'd ride in mass or in a full parade to the P&E grounds, and then we would collect all the toys there.
So is it now what it is? It's sort of everyone gets together at a specific location and just drops off the donations?
Yeah, so say we've done it at Trev Dealey Motorcycles for a couple of years now, so we'll be on site at Trev Dealey's, our volunteers and our people, and then the people can come by and drop off toys and go ahead and actually have soup and snacks and things like that and go about their day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, is there any specific reason why a motorcycle run?
Just traditional. We have a lot of different kind of runs. We have motorcycle runs. We have the Cruise for Kids, which is a vintage and specialty car run, which used to be a run also, now it's a gathering. We have the 4-wheel drive toy run, which is again a gathering versus a traditional run, and things like that. There's many kinds of toy drives, toy drops, runs. It depends on the interest of the group involved, right? We have different car clubs do things. We have a bicycle group that does something. Hockey teams do stuff. So the word run or drop or drive are kind of synonymous.
Oh. And is it just sort of like a fun way to get the community involved in an event?
Well, traditionally these are community-driven events. We have the charity, or the charity of choice, or the donor, or the charity recipient. So we don't, except for the toy run, which we don't get that involved on the operational side of it. So say that, let's say that BCIT Journalism is going to have a toy drive or a toy event. They set it up, they collect the product, they come and drop it off to the Christmas Bureau, or we pick it up and we distribute to all the local Christmas bureaus and to our local families.
Okay. And so how does that sort of designation work with finding families and kids that want the toys or donations?
This is how it works. So we have 3 hats. We serve 1,000 families in Vancouver as the Vancouver Christmas Bureau. We also supply toys to 13 local bureaus across the entire Metro Vancouver Fraser Valley area. Like tomorrow we're shipping over 10,000 toys to the Surrey Christmas Bureau.
Wow.
they would ship over 5,000 toys to the Mission Christmas Bureau. So Mission Community Services will give out to their families, to their networks, of the product to people who qualify, and how they meet their qualifications. That's my job to decide. I mean, it's low-income families, and if we trust our agency partners to do what's best. So we've shipped, I believe, as of tomorrow, we'll have shipped 10 bureaus.
Oh, wow.
Argumentatively, and one's a double. That means we ship between 45 and 50,000 items. But it could be more than that.
So 45 to 50,000 items. That sounds like quite a lot.
Already gone. Yeah, and we budgeted 20,000 items for our Vancouver families. Now, keeping in mind, when we talk about an item, it could be anything from a stuffed animal to a stocking stuffer to a primary toy to even in some cases a bicycle. So for us, product is product is product. And we share it equitably with all the bureaus because our big events aren't always just in Vancouver. And all of our donor base is not just in Vancouver. So these long-term traditional events, they have people from all over the mainland involved. So we support all the local bureaus.
Would you say that you traditionally get the most of the donations from the Vancouver area than to ship it out to the surrounding bureaus?
Actually, no. Vancouver area is in Metro Vancouver Lower Mainland, yes, but our keynote events, Pan Pacific Breakfast at the Pan Pacific Hotel, that's returning. Well, of course, that's a downtown event. A lot of people work downtown Vancouver, don't necessarily live there, but they work there. We're doing the event with Toy Mountain. It's in Surrey. It goes. So it doesn't matter to us where the event is. If we're part of it, we share everything.
Okay. So then I guess it's a lot of sort of you build up the base through the different bureaus and then passing the items along so it's about equal. Everybody can get satisfied.
So what we do is we ran our original. This bureau's been around since 1930 in one form or another. So our mandate is to take care of the families of Vancouver and partner with other local bureaus that do similar things. So we do supply. We give 3% of the toys we get, and it doesn't matter where they come from, go to other bureaus. So we keep about 30% of what we raise for Vancouver families. But keeping in mind, we also do small community projects in Vancouver and occasionally other places, so we can help out because we have a little more flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Christmas Bureau is an independent charity with a small community board, and we're not part of another agency, not necessarily part of a national organization. So we can be a little more responsive and a little more flexible in how we deliver our services.
Yeah, and so being an independent, I guess, charitable organization, would you guys... What's the sort of number that you guys normally hit of items being donated?
We strive between 60 to 80,000 things, but remember that if we get into like stocking stuffers, you can get 800 to a box. You get bicycles, we might get say 50 or 70 per year, but we might also have 23,000 stuffed animals. Now, every toy item has a different kind of value, be it a play value, a comfort value, or what have you. But a higher-end toy, or a primary toy, is a much different beast than a stocking stuffer. So we look at the, I expect 200,000 things a year, but 30,000 that, or 40,000 might be stocking stuffers, which are giveaways, or stuffed animals. But the greatest thing, I guess the most important thing to always remember is for teens and preteens, it's always critical shortage for all the Christmas bureaus. So we look at identifiable teenage toys, and we have to be under 1,000.
Okay.
And that's not work because about 30% of the children's population is teens or preteens. So we make it work. We're very creative and we across genres, but people love to buy stuff. The little ones, preschool toys. It's a warm fuzzy. It's easy. It's rewarding. People love to give stuffed animals. Stuffed animals have comfort value. Yeah. I'm not disputing that. They have very little education value and they have very little play value. But they still
Okay. And then I guess, are there any sort of items that you would value more for that preteen group that doesn't really get as many gifts?
Here's where people have to be a little more creative. So, when you think teen or preteen, traditionally we got things for young ladies, things like makeup kits, curling irons, stuff like that. That's always a good choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
But given it's hard to ask a clothing store or like a Walmart or a London drugstore or something like that. You can give it a teen. They can buy their own. The parents can combine it and buy something for the teen. Electronics are always electronics can be for male or female and for either genre. And my rule of thumb is what would like think what you would like, think what your teen would like, or teens in your cohort would like, follow accordingly.
Okay. So that wraps up about what I've got written down. Is there anything that you feel like should be shared?
No, I'm just always the Bureau is always thankful for the voices we get. We 100% everything we get. 100% of our product is donated, and can't support volunteers, and that that's just how we do it.
Oh. Okay, then.
And of course, we're always there's always opportunities for
Oh yeah.
We do accept cash donations, of course, and we go online to our website to do that. And teens and preteens.
Thank you so much for your time.
Sure, take care.
First started playing music with Charlie, specifically punk music, loved punk rock. And then one day we were like, oh, let's go see the Pixies, because they're coming to Vancouver. They're playing with Weezer, another 90s alternative band. Afterwards, Charlie came up to me and was like, dude, like, we should start a band. Like, we should actually try and do music. That'd be so cool. Like, let's do it.
All right. All right, this one's called Slap a Bye, Baby. He said, babe, I want to be in that ass like a parasite. How do you think my touch is what heaven's like? How do you know, like, they scream when I go for the throat? How do you know what it's like to watch blood pour on my nose?
And we go through that first quarantine, and it was a search for a drummer, because it was me and Zach on guitar. I was doing most of the singing, Charlie was on bass.
I was learning guitar and Lars was learning all kinds of instruments, so we just kind of messed around. And then it kind of got stale after a while because we couldn't really work off each other in that particular arrangement.
And we were just like desperate for someone who would be able to play drums, and then we'd be good to go, right? And so probably the most musical person in our grade at the time was a certain man named Knight O'Connor, who played guitar, played bass, and played the drums.
So, I mean, I knew everybody from high school. I knew Lars, Zach, and Charlie. And I knew that they were playing music together. And I knew that there was a party coming up that Charlie was throwing. So I went to that. And I managed to corner Lars and Charlie. And I was like, hey, you know, I know how to play drums. And I heard that you guys are down a drummer. I can play drums for you if you'd like that.
We started going, and Knight is a pretty rough drummer, and it was fun, but we were like, okay, this is a good place for this band to start. Like, this will work, we just gotta give it time and learn stuff. And we were like, all right, like, let's take a little break, right?
And then we figured it out, because Knight's a way better bassist than he is a drummer. Lars is a way better drummer than he is guitarist. I moved to keyboard because I'm much better with that than bass. And Zach stayed on guitar because he's so good.
And then we like played the best I'd ever played up at that point in any group setting ever. Played some of the most fun music, rough and raw, but exciting and new and fun. And we knew we would never go back to the old instruments. From that point on, we were like stuck in those spots. But I'd say our biggest influence was coming from Pink Floyd. 'Cause we adored Pink Floyd as the typical high school stoners we were. We loved Pink Floyd, and we'd sit there and listen to Dark Side of the Moon or The Wall and dedicate hours to it and stuff. You know, way more important than schoolwork at the time. You know, you gotta get your listens in on some Pink Floyd records, you know. But as to who I would compare us to and who we sound like the most, well, we get a lot of people who say we sound like the Doors.
I've heard from a lot of people that we apparently sound like the Doors in terms of our musical arrangement.
Which is funny because I'm not even that big of a Doors fan. But Charlie's a massive Doors fan, and once again, that's where the Doors got their sound, was through those keys and stuff.
I don't think a lot of people have an answer for Knight's singing. He kind of just sings like Knight, he just shouts. I like it.
As far as genre goes, Lars and I came up with psychedelic funk and punk.
So a lot of bands, whether or not they're a one-hit wonder or whatever, a lot of bands have that song, like the song, their song. It's a song that people say, oh yeah, they sing blank. For Queen, it's probably Bohemian Rhapsody. For Led Zeppelin, you have to say it's Stairway to Heaven. Like Nirvana's It Smells Like Teen Spirit. So if I asked you, what's your song? What's the song for Big Long Baby?
Bugs.
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 Bugs?
But who gives a shit about insects?
I wrote Bugs about drug use and how it kind of affected me and how, you know, there's that blasé attitude. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. Roaches in my lung, roaches in my heart, kickstart. But it's about drugs, and it's got that kind of like evil feeling to it, you know, about how it's super fast paced, and then it's, you know, you're getting hit with it.
Gives a shit about insects? Think you can't do what? We all takes care of Terraria. Gives a shit about insects? Think you can't do what?
That was the easiest song we've ever written too. And I think we finished that song in like three like band practices. We actually like completed that song with the words, with everything. Yeah, it was by far the easiest song we've ever written. And the most excited I think we've ever been writing a song. It was very fun to write that one, because we were like, fuck, this is cool.
So I remember playing it, and I just sat there for, must have been like half an hour just trying to work it out. And then I got like the verse chorus down, and then I wrote this like slow, heavy part. And I was like, this is great. So I recorded it and I sent it to the band, and they're like, that's fucking awesome. Yeah, I just really channeled how I was feeling into the words and made a singable melody that still kind of felt punky and had that attitude. And then I brought the words into practice, and then we played it together, and it was done. That was, I think, probably one of the first songs that we sat back and were really proud of.
But yeah, Bugs was like, that was our first and only thus far masterpiece that we've made.
Like, if I leave them on, I ruin the streak of the last, 10 years of never wearing shoes where I work.
I do all kinds of tattoos, whatever the customer asks for mostly. But lately I've been doing mostly form line style indigenous tattoos. I'm Métis on my dad's side, but I was raised by my mom. So I didn't grow up with a huge personal connection to my indigenous ancestry. But as I started doing more indigenous tattoos, that kind of got me a little bit more interested in finding more about my own history.
Bahasa Hari Tundo, Tatemusli, Saschosli, Nadle Witen Yinka Dene Dakes. In my language, that means my name is Randall Bear Barnetson. I come from the Bear Clan, the village of Nadle, and of the Dakes First Nation. That's my nation. The back tattoo, I think it's been about 12 hours now, I would say. 10 to 12 hours. On my left arm here, I have the bear for Dentemu, my Bear Clan. And then I have the Thunderbirds on the middle, and then the double eagles on the bottom. So this is for my Dakes people on my mother's side. And then also the double eagles for my Newhawk family, and then the Thunderbirds for my father's side. His crest was a Thunderbird. So that's why I have the Thunderbird on my back as well, along with the bear. Since time immemorial, we would commission an artist to do a clan design or a crest for us in our community. We'd go to a local artist and ask them to do a design for our clan or community to represent ourselves, our family, our community, our nation.
Adi, Ani, Sasan, welcome to my studio.
So my tattoos, they all represent that, from my Bear Clan to my Thunderbirds to my Eagle Clan. They represent and they place me in my community and show my affiliation there. And so that's why I love working with Logan, because Logan, he helps me to kind of embody these teachings in these clans and crests, and he really contextualizes these teachings that we have. And then on this side, I got the East Van cross, because where I was born, East Van. So I kind of go between two, because traditionally, land and people are the most important things to us as traditional indigenous people. So when I turned 18, I was like, I'm going to get the East Van cross on my arm. I'm going to go to do it. I went to a tattoo artist, and he said, nah, come back in a couple of years when you figure it out a bit more. And I was like, what the hell, man? I want to get tattooed. And he was like, nah, think about it some more, come back. And then I waited a decade, and then Logan did it for me.
My name is Shanton Hopkins. I am a tattoo artist here at East Van Warren Tattoo Company. Born and raised in East Vancouver. I am Indigenous to Darcy Anderson Lake, better known to us as the Naquaqua people. It's part of the Stallion Nation. So growing up, I was a pretty rebellious kid. Just always getting into trouble, getting into fights, drinking, stealing cars when I was like 12. Went to jail when I was like 14. Yeah, it's just a lot of pain and trauma from like my mother. She was an alcoholic who dealt with her generational trauma from my grandmother who was in residential school. So just like trickled down, passed down to me, right? But like me and myself, I've been doing like a lot of work on myself. I've been sober now for like 3 years. Trying to break the chain and the link for my kids, right? So my style, I do like, I like to stick with like a realism, black and gray, but I like to try to incorporate like a native form line art to it. So I do my own West Coast style, like form line, native art with the realism. Yeah, it's just sort of like a unique touch that I wanted to come up with. Like, for me, I always wanted to sort of incorporate like the native art inside of my tattoo work. And black and gray realism is something that I always wanted to pursue. I want to keep that style of art alive. I want to keep the form line art alive, right? It's been here already for centuries. Even though it's been tweaked a little bit, whatever, like all artists have their own styles of their own art, right? Well, we have all kinds of different backgrounds getting like Oriental Japanese style sleeves. I tattooed this native guy just last week. We did a full native realism piece on his arm, full sleeve. He already had an existing like Oriental Japanese style dragon on his other arm, right? I'm like, yeah, if like you have like enough love and respect for the culture, like I don't see why it would be an issue for anybody to want to get like form line native art tattooed on their bodies, right? If it's nothing but love and respect, that's all that matters, right?
I think it's really complicated. It's non-Indigenous people, unless there's like, the way I was taught is if there's a story, connection to the story, and you go about it in a good way, is you do work with an Indigenous artist, and you go about the proper protocols, and you know the story and the connection there, then it's more acceptable. However, if you get a clan design or a clan crest, then that has such larger meaning behind it, and affiliation to, like I said, to place, community, to people. And you're essentially saying that you are part of them. And that's a tough thing to claim. And we always say it's not who you claim, but who claims you.
It's a little controversial, and it's everybody has a differing viewpoint. And for me, it's different client to client. Like sometimes, like I have some European tourist that's like, yeah, I want this salmon because I'm in Canada. And in that case, like, you know, go home and think about it a little bit, do a little bit of research. But other times, like I've tattooed white people that have been adopted by a nation and have lived their whole life on reserve and around Indigenous art and Indigenous people, and they want to honor that. And I think that's dope too. Was a strip club and very much like a biker skittish kind of hangout. My dad's stories about Steveston are a lot different than what my feelings about Steveston. I see Indigenous tattooing kind of flourishing even more. Just the artwork in itself is becoming more and more popular. People are more down to collect fine art and that sort of thing. Like I know the Canucks are having warm-up jerseys done by an Indigenous artist. So it's kind of in people's faces so much more, and it's so much more like widely accepted. And yeah, I think the future is bright for Indigenous tattooers, for sure.
How does it feel? Yeah. Greatest feeling in the world.
Natalia for showcasing Logan and traditional tattooing and traditional Indigenous art and having this be a part of the conversation and bringing us to the table in that. So Natalia in my language means thank you for everything you've done for us.
I was just gonna go do my own thing, but then I ended up, there's something in me that just stopped, and I sat on the curb and I just started crying, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what? This is just, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm Amberlina Murray. I'm 33 years old, and I was raised in Port Coquitlam. So I was 9 years old when I started smoking weed, but it quickly, like between 9 and 10, probably 10 or 11 is when I started getting into ecstasy and cocaine and more of the harder drugs. I was fully addicted to crystal meth when I was, I would say 13 is when I was fully addicted to it. I was born with a very sick mother, so I was born addicted already. And then my whole childhood was full of abuse and anger and my mom being sick and having to watch over her, as well as she lived in the hospital pretty much in nursing homes because she couldn't care for herself.
What happened with Amber's mom and Amber is an absolute tragedy, and no child should have to go through that, and it breaks my heart.
So we didn't have like a good relationship at all. My dad, I was always daddy's little girl, but at the same time there was not much my dad could do because he was so focused on taking care of my mom, like he was her caretaker. I think he was at a point in his life where he just didn't know what to do. His life was so chaotic with this one woman that he didn't even know how to deal with his daughter who was addicted to drugs. As soon as I started smoking weed with friends at a youth center or started doing ecstasy, or the one thing that came to mind was I didn't have to feel anymore. Like those feelings were gone. Like I didn't feel pain, I didn't feel anything. And it was an amazing feeling. Finally, once in my life, I could turn to something that I didn't have to feel. It was when I had kids is when I realized I had a problem. I got clean at 15, 16. I stayed clean. I had the two older kids, Savannah and Caden. And then I split up from I left their dad. And all I knew was that little family. Like that meant the world to me. When we split up, I went right back into addiction and left the kids with my dad and their dad. And I didn't get clean until my youngest kid's dad came in the picture. And I only stayed clean because I got pregnant right away. I had no idea how to even get like a month or 2 months. 2 months was probably my longest. And then I just kept relapsing. I was definitely loaded there. And we went to the P&E and I couldn't even handle it for like 2 seconds. I was in the bathroom like the whole time. Like I was a shitty human being, like shitty. Like I was not a nice person unless I wanted something. That was the only time I was nice. And as soon as I got it, you wouldn't see me again. Like I just, totally opposite person than who I am off drugs. And that's just how it is when you want to get clean, it's like, you want to get clean, but your head's like so powerful in that moment when you start detoxing that it's like crippling. And so I talked myself into making a phone call, and when I asked to get to make a phone call, they said, if you make the phone call, you need to leave right now. And I still decided to make the phone call. And there was no pickup from my dealer. So they kicked me out anyway. The recovery house, a lot of them I got banned from continuing to come back and not staying clean. Not from anything bad I did, but because of not staying clean. Like some places are just like, you know, like you're clearly not getting it, so maybe go to a different place.
She had nobody and she was alone. And I remember everybody coming up to me and saying, hey, don't waste your time. You know what? She's just going to end up doing this, or this. And I can understand where they were coming from, right? Because a lot of people had invested a lot into Amber, and you know, Amber made unhealthy choices, but that's to be expected by somebody that is in addiction, right?
I have overdosed 4 times. The very first time I overdosed, it was actually my kids who found me in the living room, as I was still living with my youngest kid's dad at the time. And he ended up calling, they started screaming, and then he ended up calling an ambulance and stuff. And then I went code blue in the ambulance. I was able to make it through, thankfully, but yeah, that was probably like my lowest. There's something in me that just stopped, and I sat on the curb and I just started crying, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what? This is just, I don't want to do this anymore. I remember being in like recovery for like in a recovery house for like the 6th time, and I had a weekend, or not a weekend, but my youngest kid's dad brought them all to me to have like an hour visit. And I remember like that so clearly, that they were leaving, and this is after about 6 months and not seeing them at all, because I was in addiction, and then the recovery house I was in, you can't see anyone for a month. So he came and brought them, and when they were leaving, all 3 of them were like screaming and crying and like would not let go of me at all. Where the staff at the house had to come out and pry them off me, and I like cried for days.
I just didn't want to let go, and I wanted to stay with her, and I just wanted her to come back home with us. I just felt really sad because I didn't understand why my mom couldn't come see us and why we always had to come see her.
It's heartbreaking. It's like, I'm doing this. Like, I'm doing this by not putting the work into me and continuing to use. I'm causing so much trauma in my kids that I grew up with. And I mean, they're floating around house to house like there's no stability at all. So, and no one's gonna love them the way that I love them. Because of my chronic relapsing, to help me stay in the houses, of writing what the kids would say to me. I love you, Mommy, and I want you to stay there and get the help you need, so when you come home, we can laugh and have fun again together. Like, addiction took everything from me, like my ability to be a mom, my ability to know how to even love on my kids. Like, I didn't know how to hug my kids anymore. Like, that natural mom instincts were gone. Like, I had to relearn all that through my recovery. It took me a long time to even talk about my mom, like before I got clean this time, but I knew if I wanted to stay clean this time, I had to talk about her. So like prior to this, like I just hated her. Like I thought she ruined my whole life. Because I knew like deep down that if I didn't have a mom like that, I probably would have had a better chance in life. Yeah, myself and one other woman in this. I did feel like the kids deserved to know why they went through what they did. And also deserve to know, like, and also.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.